Okay, the learning target here is what is the roles of the president, jobs of the president, and you can find this in the book as well. Some of this is directly from the Constitution, some of it is implied by the Constitution, and some of it has just grown to become part of the role of the president but was never in the Constitution. You should be able to recognize what is in the Constitution and what is not. Multiple roles here. So, starting with Commander in Chief, which is in the Constitution. That's why I have it starred here. He's the Commander in Chief. That means he's the head of the armed forces. The president sets the goals of of the military, but also he picks the Secretary of Defense, and who heads up the Pentagon, which is the military. And you should also know that the Senate has to confirm the choice of the Secretary of Defense. And of course, the Secretary of Defense is also in the president's cabinet, one of his advisors. So another portion of his foreign policy is chief diplomat. This is inferred by the Constitution. It's implied that he is the head of our diplomacy, our discussions with other countries. So he picks our Secretary of State, and just like the Secretary of Defense, it's a member of the cabinet, as well as has to be confirmed by the Senate. The Secretary of State or the State Department runs diplomacy around the world. Ambassadors, the embassies, check your table of cabinet positions to review what the State Department does. He appoints ambassadors, which is in the Constitution and has to be confirmed by the Senate. He also makes treaties with other countries, which have to be affirmed by the Senate. A good example of a treaty that was not was Woodrow Wilson. You should have learned this last year in U.S. history. Had the Treaty of Versailles to end World War I, but the senators, the majority of senators were opposed to the League of Nations. So they opposed the Treaty of Versailles, so it was never ratified in the U.S. So we have two, Commander in Chief. This is military, this is diplomacy. Both are foreign. Then, for legislative powers, he has to give a State of the Union address. This is in the Constitution. So who's the Union? The United States. So what state are we in? How is it going? What is the direction? Nowhere does it say the State of the Union has to be done verbally. It can be done written, which some presidents did. And it just says time to time, but now they do it yearly, usually January, February. And then you should know from the last unit that he signs and vetoes bills, as well as if 10 days, no signature, it's a pocket veto. If Congress leaves, 10 days, Congress is still there, it becomes law without a signature. That is all in the Constitution. Again, so is this. He nominates federal judges. This is in the Constitution yet again. You should remember from Supreme Court Judge Barrett, Trump nominated him, and then there were some Senate hearings, and the Senate confirmed. It's not going to be just the Supreme Court, though. It's all federal judges. So circuit, district, etc. That will be our next unit. Again, this is in the Constitution. If we go up here, he is the head of the executive branch. We covered this with bureaucracy. He picks the leaders of the federal bureaucracy, which were those departments, some agencies, and the U.S. Postal Service. So he picks them. Senate has to confirm them. Any leaders chosen in these positions per the Constitution are to be confirmed by the Senate. Hence the star, it's in the Constitution. He also sets domestic policy agenda. So Biden has come out that his number one domestic agenda policy is COVID. You would remember possibly from 4 years ago that Trump's primary first domestic policy agenda was to build the wall between Mexico and the United States and to limit immigration. So domestic means in our country. We have foreign policy, how we deal with other countries. Domestic policy, how you handle issues in this country. Could be immigration, could be healthcare, could be transportation, roads, it could be the environment. Lots of domestic policy out there, and he sets that agenda, usually by picking the leaders of the departments, as well as executive orders. Don't forget executive orders. We have an assignment on that. So 2 ideas that, starting with chief of state or head of state. In England, the head of state or the chief of state is the queen. She is, when you go to you want a formal meeting with the person who heads the state, meaning heads the country, you'd have a meeting with or dinner with the queen. We do not have kings and queens in the U.S., so it is the president. So he represents us. People visit the U.S. and have a formal visit. They visit the White House. This is not in the Constitution. It probably was always assumed to be the case that the president would be the head of state, chief of state, but it's not listed in the Constitution directly. Finally, on this, the party leader is definitely not in the Constitution because nothing about political parties is in the Constitution. Right now, with Trump as president, he is a Republican, so he is the head of the Republican Party. When Obama was president, he was the head of the Democrats. So then who is the head of the Democrats while Trump is president? Somebody in a official role in the national party, but I couldn't actually tell you who it is by name. It's much more noticeable around the country, whoever the president is, that they lead their political party. So in review, these are the different roles of the president. You can also find them in Chapter 9, and some of them are in the Constitution, which you can find in Article 2, and some of them have become more of tradition. Most, though, that I covered here are in the Constitution.